School? Raise your hand if you know Product School. Great. Okay, there's a few faces. So Product School started in San Francisco in 2014, and since then they've pretty much done over 100,000 students in different offline and online courses in San Francisco, New York, and also in Europe. They've given a lot of presentations to all the unicorns out in the valley. And right now, so last September, they decided to expand the concept of their meetups to everybody who wanted to build one in the cities. So kind of went ahead and said, listen, we need this in Miami. They said, okay. And that's what we're doing this. And just to give you an idea of how much people talk about product management, in San Francisco, this meetup that we're doing here once a month, thanks to Mathew, over there they have about 2 meetups per week. And they're booked solid with speakers all the way to September. That's how many product managers they have a week. And then how much they talk about subjects and their samples. So, trying to change that, help the community here by bringing this information. A lot of people are still not aware of the difference between a project manager and a product manager. It's time to change that. For all of us that work in technology or in business. Let's see. We have a Slack channel from Product School. It's in the 1,000 people, but if you want resources to become a product manager, what does a product manager do? Who do you know that is a product manager in one of the companies that maybe you want to work at? Join the Slack. How many use Slack? That's a choice, okay? Ish. All right. They just started this, which is a job portal. So if you're looking for jobs in product management, join the Slack, you get access to the website too, and you can see firsthand, curated by Product School, a lot of product management. See it? How are you?
Hello, pardon me.
And you got great connections there too. This is just showing pretty much all the campuses that they have now, for all the courses that they're doing online and offline. Well, this is their flagship product, obviously, it's product management. They do courses in-house, and they're also now doing online. They're also doing them on a part-time basis. If you're interested in becoming a product manager through this education, just reach out to me after the presentation. And if you at your company, you want to have the guys at Product School set up a training just for your company, I said, why do we need a product manager here? Right, there's a lot of startups in Miami that don't have that level yet to have product managers because of either money, or sometimes it's just knowledge. I was at a company in Palm Beach that has hundreds of employees, and there are project managers that are doing the functions of product managers without knowing. So there's still a lot of education that we need here on this side of the country about product managers. So this is available too. And it comes to Mathew Varghese, which we've misspelled his name 10 times already, 10 different times in a month. So I think we got a record there. Mathew Varghese is the Director of Product Development at Citrix. Mathew developed this framework that he uses, with his teams at Citrix. He's been talking about product adoption. And I think you guys are really, really going to use this in your personal businesses, your startups, your companies, and also take some good notes. We're also recording this, and I will be posting this presentation on LinkedIn, the easiest way. And if we're not connected on LinkedIn, reach out to me, and I can send you the video too. All right, Mathew.
Excellent. Thank you. So it's 7 in the evening. It's already wine o'clock, beer o'clock. I'm not going to keep you guys waiting too long. I'll get to the point without making you wait too much. So we have enough time for Q&A, and if you have any, if you want to have conversations offline with me, we can do that. So today's talk is about adoption. And quick show of hands, how many product managers do we have out here? All right, excellent. And how many startup founders? Oh, there you go. And most of you here, I'm assuming, are aspiring to be product managers at some point, right? If you're not already. So adoption is very important for product managers. If you've got a product, you've got a service, you've got to make sure that people are adopting it, right? That's how you keep your job. So I'm going to talk about product management and adoption and how they come together today. I'm going to try and share a framework that I use at work. It's a very simple framework to follow, but this talk today is not a shortcut for or a super simple formula for growing adoption. It's going to be more about how do you work smart, right? We're all hardworking people here. I'm going to give you a framework that shows you how to work smart with all the energy and all the all the skills that you have. So let's start with why adoption matters. In this presentation, I'm going to be making a few book recommendations. If you feel like it, go for it, go buy it, try it out. These are really good books that I've read over the years. And in addition to the framework, I'm also going to be showing you some books. I'm going to be talking about tools and then, of course, the framework. So, adoption matters because the world is moving towards subscription, right? Now, how many of you here gotten, came here in an Uber or a Lyft? Just one person? I almost did, but my wife was kind enough to drop me, so that's not me. But the thing about the subscription economy is that it's changing the way businesses operate, right? So delivering value to your customer has become more and more important, otherwise you're not going to stick. So let's start with the simplest example, which is the car industry. When the automobile industry started more than 100 years ago, for them the business model was very simple. Build a car, sell it, your customer's there for whatever, right? 5 to 20 years. And that's a regular revenue stream, right? You get service revenue, you get income, revenue by just selling the car, and then people refresh their cars. But with Uber and Lyft, people are not buying cars anymore. So the number of people, applying for licenses has dropped, and that's been in the news the past couple of weeks, right? And all of these, by the way, are quotes coming from the book. So the first book that I mentioned, Subscribe, it's really good. You should give it a try. Amazon, subscription revenue. It's probably a beast out there, and their biggest source of revenue is all subscriptions, right? Then news subscriptions. Now the thing is, we keep talking about millennials wanting free news, but guess what? People don't want quote unquote fake news anymore. So people are actually going and subscribing to news websites, and they're actually paying for it. Now this is something that actually brought the message home to me at least. 12% of all the Fortune 500 companies that existed in 1955, only 12% of them are still on Fortune 500 now, right? Now the reason for that is because they failed to innovate, right? Now innovation today, adoption today is all about customer value. It's not about growing those numbers and getting more people to follow you. It's not about that. It's really about value. So bottom line, upfront, the message that I'm here to deliver today to you is adoption is all about delivering value and then retaining your customers so that you can drive subscription revenue going forward, because everything is going to become a subscription model going forward. So how do customers adopt? Now, back in the day, at least when I went to business school 10 years ago, there was this book that was part of our strategy class. It was called Crossing the Chasm. How many of you have read this book? Crossing the Chasm? No? It's a small book. So all the books I'm recommending today are small books. You can probably finish them over a weekend. But the way I value a book is if the book is small and it's packed with material, I consider that a good book. And this is a timeless classic. There are lots of strategies built around Crossing the Chasm. And essentially, what Jeffrey Moore says is that the entire adoption curve consists of innovators and early adopters who start adopting your product. It's all common sense, but the thing is, this guy did this 30 years ago. He did this research, and what he discovered is that where companies fail is this chasm, where they fail to understand the true market, and they keep spinning their tires here, catering to the early adopter market, and then miss out. So if you pick go read the book. I'm pretty sure if you go to LinkedIn, there are lots of book summaries that you can go through too. But essentially, he talks about this big chasm that a lot of companies fall through because they fail to pivot from serving early adopters to serving your early majority. And he also talks about this concept of a beachhead, right? Now, if you're an early startup, your first goal should be to go find out the beachhead create an MVP, get some traction. But once you get traction, you got to pivot constantly to go to the early adopters and then go to the early majority. So how customers adopt, it's never going to be straightforward. It's never going to be linear. It's always going to be lumpy. So as you start developing your adoption strategies, as you start defining your value proposition, you got to keep these people in mind. You got to constantly think about where you are today. I mean, who you're serving. You're serving early adopters. You're serving early majority. But then there also comes a time when you will be serving late majority. So companies like Oracle are still doing that, right? I mean, they have a big pool of these late majority customers who are stuck to them, and they prevent them from innovating. So that's an example for you. And by the way, wherever I've used stuff from the web, I've left references here, so you can go back, check the source. So this brings me to what to measure. Now here comes my third book recommendation. Now you'll be surprised that I'm recommending this book for what to measure, because it's not an analytics book. The thing is, this book changed the way I think. I think Simon Sinek released this about 2009-10. It really forces you to go back to your core values, right? Now the thing is, your passion should be about delivering value to your customer, and at any given point in time, your measures should be tied to that core passion of yours, right? So if you are talking about, let's start with this one, right? When I talk to web professionals about, hey, how's your website doing, or how's your web app doing, how's your business doing, they always talk about these things. They talk about, hey, I got so many visitors, I got so many hits, I got so many subscribers, blah, blah. But the problem is that that's not what you should be looking at. When you're measuring, you should really be measuring things like, okay, what's meaningful use today looking like? I built this website to help people do X. Are they getting that value out of it? That's what you should be measuring. You should be measuring how many impressions my tweet got, right? It's all about how many people got some meaningful use out of my website. What's the daily active use? What's the meaningful or the monthly active use? Things like that. So really what you should be measuring is value metrics versus vanity metrics. And this is where I think a lot of companies fail, because they spend a lot of time reporting this back to the street. You talk to any street journalist that say, oh my God, this company's got so many subscribers, right? All these meal kit companies, they're all talking about how many subscribers they have, but no one talks about how much money they're burning, right? None of them are in the black. So you got to think about vanity metrics. You got to think about value metrics and not vanity metrics when you start thinking about measuring adoption, and that goes back to the why. So why do you exist as a business? You exist as a business to deliver value, and what is that value you're trying to deliver is what you should be measuring, and not this. So that brings me to the next point. So let me ask you this: how many of you know this company? All of you, right? So you're all aware of this company. Now this is how the street reports about Amazon. They're always about, hey, Amazon's got so many SKUs. What does it even mean, right? They have 3 million SKUs or 4 billion SKUs. It doesn't matter if that thing doesn't sell. So what you should be measuring, and I'm pretty sure the reason Amazon is successful today is because they don't care about that. What they're really caring about is things like this. What's the value that we are providing the people who transact on our platform? So if it is sellers, what kind of margins are the sellers making? Of course, it's true that Amazon is always trying to undercut their sellers and start duplicating the things that they sell. But the thing is that by paying attention to how much value you're providing back to your target audience, you stay focused on delivering value to yourself. So it's a two-way street. So that brings me to this thing that I just alluded to, which is awareness. So the key value driver at any given point in time is awareness of your value proposition. If organizations, if your customers are not aware of your value prop, they are not going to adopt, right? And even if they do, right, you put up this fancy sales campaign and people come and adopt, they're going to be early adopters, they're going to be innovators, they're going to try it out, they're going to get bored, they're going to run away, and you're going to be left spinning trying to cater to their needs, and you'll fall through the chasm, right? So, which brings me to what I call the first law of adoption, right? And this is all common sense, by the way, and this is not stuff that you should be reading in a book. This is stuff that you learn when you get beaten up by the adoption market. So by the way, I probably didn't introduce myself. My name is Mathew, and Mathew told you. I'm a product manager. I've been product manager for a little while. And luckily for me, I've been a product manager of a lot of early growth products at Citrix. Now, Citrix, for those of you who know, it's a South Florida company. It's been around for 30 years. It's probably used by every single Fortune 500 company. And the good thing about Citrix is that we have our mature products, but we also have early stage products that we incubate and run and pivot very quickly, right? Just last week, I announced the EOL of one of my very successful products that I launched 2 years ago, right? So in the grand scheme of things for Citrix, 2 years is nothing. But ever since Citrix, moved into this new way of fail early, fail fast, we've put out a lot of products. We've tested them in the market, and where those products are not delivered value, we pull them out. It's not that we didn't have adoption. The product that I just announced EOL for, I probably had about 3,000 customers using it, but we decided to pull it out and incorporate it in some other product because we felt that we were not delivering value with it being a standalone product, right? So the thing is, I've been doing this for a while, and this is all based on my experiences. So if any of this just looks like common sense, and if you feel that you shouldn't have driven all the way to Miami, listen to me saying this, my apologies. But the thing is, being product managers, it's often good to just exchange common sense once in a while, because a lot of us forget that when things get really hard. But sometimes it's good to just take a step back, look at some simple things, and get back to work. So the first law is pretty simple. The more the user knows about your product or service, the more successful or the more value she's going to derive from it, right? A simple example is a Swiss Army knife, right? If you didn't know everything that a Swiss Army knife did, you'd probably get no value out of it. You just use it like a regular knife, right? So the more you know, the more your users know, the more value they're going to get. And that goes back to awareness, right? The more awareness you drive, the more successful and the more value your customers are going to get out of it. But at some point, I'm going to talk about product management versus sales, because now you must be wondering, man, why is this guy talking all this? This sounds like sales, but I'm going to explain why I'm going, here. I often, geek out. I like math, so here's a simple formula. For those of you who don't like math, my apologies. But essentially, what I'm trying to say is that value is a function of awareness. If there's no awareness, you can't drive value, right? Now, awareness, though, in my mind. Now you might blame the millennials for it, but the thing is, these days when we are talking about awareness, we're not talking about just product features. We're talking about what are your company's values, because the way people buy product today, let's simply talk about why Huawei versus Cisco, right? With all this media nonsense happening, how many of your companies is going to go and buy a router from Huawei? Maybe not, right? Simply because of all of this news about Huawei, right? Maybe they don't have the right values. Now, I'm not going to question that. But the thing is that all of these things, like what are the values of the company? What kind of vision does a company have? What are the backstories, right? What really happens? Who are these employees? What do they look like? All of these actually influence the value that a customer gets out of it. So it's not just features. You can go and talk features to as many people as you want. Today, Apple is probably the most valuable company on the planet just because its vision resonates with its customers. Samsung has not been able to unseat Apple yet, right? So that's the reason. So awareness is not just about telling people about products and features. So that brings me to why does this matter to a product manager, right? Now, this is something that a salesperson cannot do. And this is where you folks as product managers are uniquely positioned to enable your customers. Share your values, share your vision. Your sales guy is not going to go share vision with a customer. Sales guys want to close a sale. They're going to go out there and say, hey, here are the features, here are the SKUs we offer, here's the pricing and packaging, please buy my product. Instead, you as a product manager can have a completely different conversation with your customers. Which brings me to my second law, which is segment-driven personalization is what builds customers for life. And I've learned this the hard way, folks. And the example I have for you there is, JetBlue's Mosaic program. If you all are on the Mosaic program, you will know that, and I'm pretty sure all the other airlines do this as well, but I find it extremely useful. When I have to switch a flight or change something, when I call up the help desk, the Mosaic help desk through my app, it directly goes to somebody who knows who I am. So when they bring up my records, they're like, hello, Mr. Varghese, we know you're flying out tomorrow. Do you need any help? Right? Now that is segment-driven personalization. So they have segmented a group of their customers whom they call Mosaic, and then they personalize that entire experience for that customer. Right? Now you can call it by different names, but we started implementing this at work, and it's been extremely useful because as a PM, just being a single person, I can scale myself out to a fairly large number of customers, and then let the salespeople, the support people, customer success handle the others, right? So segmentation of customers is very important, and this is what brings me to the framework that I've been talking about. So this entire presentation so far, I spoke about two things. I spoke about awareness, and I spoke about value. And what I said was, the more aware your customers are, which is rule number one or law number one, the more aware customers are of you, your product, your values, your vision, your features, the more value they're going to get out of it, right? So therefore, based on that realization, I created this framework at work. We use this all the time. And I call this, and I segmented my customers into 4 groups. The first group is what I call potential promoters. Now, how many of you have heard about Net Promoter Score, NPS? Right, some of you. For us, Citrix NPS is very important. We get ourselves rated all the time, all our products and services. Now, I'm using the word promoters in a very specific way, in the NPS way. Now, think about it. These are people who are aware of your product or your service. They're also getting some value out of it. So each one of these customers here is a potential promoter for your business. So if you're not getting any promotion out of these people, you're doing something wrong, right? A salesperson wouldn't touch these people. Sales engineers, salespeople, they don't care because we made a sale. If it's a subscription customer, yeah, we'll go back when subscription is about to expire, and most big software companies do 3-year subscriptions, so 5-year subscriptions. So it's almost like a done deal, right? Sales guys don't touch these people. Sales engineers don't touch these people. As product managers, this is where our opportunity lies. We've got to stay in touch with our potential promoters. The second group that I pay a lot of attention to every morning, first thing when I wake up, I look at all my potential promoters. These are people who are aware of your product. They probably tried it out, but they didn't get any value out of it. So some of them might just be on bad trials, right? They applied for a trial, they got your product or service, and by the way, I'm only talking about software here. Anybody here doing hardware, services, brick and mortar? Excellent, okay. Okay, so I'm talking software here, but you can apply this to any scenario. These are people who are not having a good experience. Now the reason I'm calling them detractors is because these are the people who are most likely to go and criticize you in public. They'll probably tweet about you and say, oh my God, this software doesn't work, right? And the problem is that those kind of tweets get promoted over everything else. So no matter how well your product does, these people are most likely to bring you down, right? Then now this is the group that the salespeople are probably the most interested. This is where support comes in, right? So tech support probably likes to know about them, but if it's not if it's not a well-defined, known, reproducible problem, tech support doesn't care. So tech support is going to just escalate it to engineering, and they're going to say, oh man, I don't understand this thing, fix it, whatever. But the customer is still suffering. Now the inactive prospects are the customers who are not aware, or probably have limited awareness, they're not getting any value. Those are the people whom sales is most interested in because it's a green field, they want to go make a sale. But at the same time, these people are also fair game for product managers, right? It's a good set of people to go talk to, and I'm going to talk more about how to engage with each of these groups later in the presentation. And the last segment in my framework are the disengaged promoters. So these are people who are getting value but are not aware of it. They turned on the product at some point, and the administrator who turned it on went away. I mean, it happens so many times, right? I mean, companies buy product, right? They have budget, so every year, when budget's going to get over, they go buy something, and the person who bought it, leaves the company, and it's just lying there. Now, these disengaged promoters are people who are also pretty valuable to product managers. Unfortunately, salespeople look at them as opportunities too. They're like, okay, why didn't I go and sell some more to them, right? Why didn't I do a software refresh with them? So, as product managers, we've got to look at all of these very differently, and that's what the rest of my presentation is about. So, any questions on this framework? Any comments? Any questions? Yes.
Are you gonna talk later on strategies?
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is that because I was just given 30 minutes and maybe 5 minutes more, I don't know how deep I'll be able to get into it, but
We don't have an APM listed, so we might be able to stay a little bit longer. but
Okay.
just-
Cool. Yeah, because a lot of the what I put in the deck is still a little high level, but we can get into strategies if you want. All right. So this brings me to my third law, which is, and this might sound a little counterintuitive to a lot of people, but I believe in manual engagement with customers, personal engagement with customers, and just automating. Right? Now, you can always say, hey, why don't you start a market or campaign, send out emails, stay in touch with people, and then measure the response rate and follow through rate. And I don't believe in any of that. That's probably what marketers do, but that's not what product managers do. In my opinion, and the example I have here is Oberoi Hotels. It's a hotel chain in India, and at business school we had to do a case on these people. It turns out that it's not a huge hotel chain, but it's probably one of the most luxurious, high-end hotel chains in the world. You've been there. Apparently, they take good care of their guests.
Yeah,
And
I know butler.
you did?
Yeah.
Oh man, see, she had her own butler.
He went and bought postcards for me and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I've stayed there a couple of times. It's pretty nice, right? So the Oberoi Hotel is a classic example of how high touch they are with their customers. And there's no reason why in this day and age of high tech we cannot be high touch with our customers. But as a product manager, I know that I'm not a sales guy, I'm not a marketing guy. I believe that it's my job to go out there, talk to customers, and get feedback. So that leads me to a couple of, I wouldn't say strategies. These are some of the values that I'd like to share with you all. And if you want to talk about strategies, we can get into instrumentation and all of that, and I have it at the end of my presentation. How are we doing on time, by the way? Am I going too fast?
No, you're good.
I'm good? Okay. So, the first thing that I'd like to tell everybody is don't sell. As a PM, don't sell but empathize. Now, what I mean by empathy, how many of you are familiar with design thinking? Try design? Everyone. Excellent. And if you're not, just go read up. Design thinking is a great methodology to implement at work. When I say empathize, I'm really talking about the design thinking empathy, right? Use every opportunity, especially when you're talking to potential promoters or potential detractors. It becomes an opportunity to go empathize with your customers, right? Just because they're having a good time, there's no harm in asking them if they have any feedback for you, right? Try to understand a day in the life of your customer. Try to understand the journey map. Because remember, this is not a sales engagement, it's not a marketing engagement, it's a product management engagement. So try and figure out how they're using it, because this is where you'll be able to differentiate between the early adopters and the late adopters, or the early majority. Because what happens is when you do your empathy studies with people, you'll quickly be able to figure out which of them are just trying your product out for the fun of it and are probably going to switch to something else, and which of these people are probably going to have it for the long run. So one of the questions I ask my customers often is, how large is your deployment? It's a very simple thing, right? And after that, I often have follow-up questions saying, okay, how are you going to scale this up? Right? How are you going to help your users get the maximum benefit? Because I work in server-side software, so I don't do consumer software. So oftentimes I talk to administrators. So my question always is, how many end users do you have, and how are you planning to scale it out to the rest of your organization? When I hear them being a little wishy-washy, when I hear them not being committed to it, I know that they're probably early adopters. They're just trying it out. And probably a month from now, when the subscription ends, they're just going to walk away and go to something else, right? There's no harm in still understanding why they're walking away, or why they're planning to walk away. Because a lot of times customers feel compelled to give you positive feedback when you talk to them, especially as a product manager. So empathy is very important. You've got to go to them. Usually go with a good questionnaire, and don't ask too many questions, probably 2 or 3 questions, but stick to the foundational elements. Think about what value you are trying to deliver to your customers, and keep your questions centered around those. So for example, if Citrix, we say, we enable people to work and play from anywhere. That's our core vision, that's our core strategy. So we build software that helps people literally work from anywhere. So oftentimes my question to my administrators is, okay, how many users do you have? Where do they work from? How many of them are working from home? How many of them are traveling all the time? How many of them are moms who are probably working from home because they cannot come to work right now? So when you start asking those kind of questions, the conversation changes from being all about, hey, your technology sucks, to being about, hey, by the way, my salespeople find it hard to use it because it takes a long time to log on. I'm like, okay, that's good. Let's talk about it. Why do you think that's a problem for them? So rather than asking things like, okay, what's the latency? What's the log on time? Maybe there's a protocol problem here. I'm not a very technical guy, so I'm probably just throwing out words here. but the thing here is,
Sounded good.
was that, yes, exactly. See, just learn 2 or 3 words, and good to go. So the thing is, empathy is really about asking the human questions, because as a product manager, when you start asking the human questions, you might be actually able to understand how you can convert a lot of your early adopters into early majority, right? Because a lot of the early adopters are probably moving on simply because you didn't serve their needs, or maybe they didn't have enough awareness of how they can deliver value to their customers, right? So empathy is one of the first things that I do, irrespective of who the customer is, right? Whether they're early adopter, whether they're potential promoters, potential detractors, inactive prospects, all of them, empathize. The second thing that I often do is I learn. So learning is a little different from empathy, and I try to do a lot of learning when I'm taking notes. So when I'm on a customer meeting, I always ask them for consent to take notes, record the conversation. We use GoToMeeting a lot, so we usually record the meeting, send a copy to the customer if they consent to being recorded. A lot of them don't consent to be recorded. That time I just type notes, send them a copy, or send the sales guy a copy. Now, the reason I said sales guy is because at Citrix we're a large organization. The salespeople are a little uncomfortable with us, talking to customers directly, so you have to go through the sales rep to talk to a customer. So the learning phase is really about black and white issues like, hey, what's your environment look like? Who are your users? What are your typical users like? It's more technical than empathetic, but you always start with empathy. Bleed in, get into learning a little bit, go back to empathy. But when I take notes, I usually mark out my learning. So when I take notes, when I send my notes out, when I curate them, I usually break these sections up. So when I send out my meeting minutes to my organization, to my team, I always have the learning piece right at the top. I say, hey, I spoke to this customer, here's what their environment looks like, boom, 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 boom. And then I get into empathy. Here are the 5 insights that I took away. So empathy is all about insights, learning is all about finding. So there's a big difference. How many of you here do user research? A little bit? Great. So you know the difference? So there is a difference between insights and findings, right? So empathizing is all about insights. I'll give you a simple example. My second product, the one that I'm EOLing or end of lifing right now, when I was doing user research, I probably spoke to 200 people, before we launched it. And at Citrix, it's easy. We have a lot of customers. You talk to the salespeople, they put you in touch with customers. Right? So I would go talk to these administrators, and I'd say, our things, what are you looking for in the product, and them being technical, the conversation would always be technical. They'd say, I want this product to run these checks every morning before 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. so I get a report, blah, blah. And me being an atypical product manager, I would ask them, why? Right? Most product managers stop at that, right? They're like, oh, you want 6 p.m., the other guy said 5 a.m., whatever, so they run an average, they get a mean, they say, okay, this is a bell curve, so we'll stay in the middle. I didn't do that, I asked why. And it turned out a lot of administrators at Citrix had grown with the company. So they all joined when they were in their early 20s, they're a lot older now, they have kids, so they have to drop their kids off at school. So what they wanted was a service that would send them a system report before they could take their kids out to school. So that way they knew how to prepare their day. So they saw a critical issue, they'd either change plans, work it out with their spouse or whoever, or call up people at work and prioritize it for them. For these people, peace of mind was the most important thing. So that was my biggest learning. My biggest insight was that administrators want peace of mind. Now, who would have thought? So we used that as a theme, and the entire product was based around peace of mind. Now, when I started doing my research, we ended up with a backlog of about 150 odd features that people wanted. What we delivered was probably 12. And the reason why I was very comfortable with 12 was it was easy for me to explain the value prop to people. I'd say, hey, here are the 3 things you need to know about the product. That's it. You start with 3, then have a little presentation, 6 slides, you're done, right? And it did really well. So the thing is, learning on the other hand is about, all right, we know you want peace of mind. What are the things you want us to check for? What is the RTB, the reason to believe that that's going to work for you? So there's empathy, there's learning, and when you're taking notes, make sure that you keep these separate. You're watching out for these things very clearly. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, thanks. So you spoke a lot about empathy and its importance to product management, but what are like the key questions you think you could ask that would help you get more answers or insight from the customer that would be empathetic?
So, I hate to say it depends, but it depends. It depends on the kind of product you have. I'll give you my personal example, and then if that is valuable, we can take it from there, or if you can share what you do, we can start with that as well. So my current product is an analytics product. It does user behavior analytics, and we use machine learning and AI it's a big data platform. We use machine learning and AI to profile users and then look for anomalous behavior, right? That's what it does. But when we started talking to administrators about it, our first question to them was, what problem are you trying to solve? Is this a problem for you today? Because what we're trying to do is really validate our value proposition, right? So I would go there, describe the problem that we're trying to solve, and then ask them, is this a problem for you today? And if the answer is yes, then we'd say why. If the answer is no, I'd still say why. So my questionnaire is very simple. So my empathy questionnaire is just 2 things. There's a value prop followed by 5 whys. So if I can get past the 3rd why, I consider myself successful. So all the early research that we did was just that. 2 questions. Here's my value proposition, and then follow it up with whys. Does it help?
Yes, thanks.
Oh, they're giving me just 10 minutes, guys. Letting you know. All right, so we looked at empathize and we looked at learning. And when you're taking notes, if it helps, on a sheet of paper, segregate the two sets of questions. The third one is enable. Now, how many of you here believe that this PM is the CEO of the product? I know you guys know it's a loaded question, that's why I'm smiling.
Ego.
Yeah. Now, I believe it's true, but I also believe in leading from the middle or leading from the back, because many a times, there are lots of egos and a lot of people like to take ownership. So as a product manager, I look at myself as a steward of the team, right? I enable people. So as a product manager, talking to customers is a way to enable the rest of your team so that you can scale up, right? You cannot be the only person doing all of this. You cannot be the only person talking to customers. You've got to enable other people in your team to do the same. So if you're trying to grow adoption, the most important thing is for you to spread that knowledge within the team, disseminate the knowledge, and enable other people to do the same, right? That's why I asked, do you think of yourself as a CEO, or do you think of yourself as something else? I lead from the rear. I like to be the steward. I like to enable people with questionnaires, enable them with data, enable them with insights so they can go do the same. Now, if you don't do that, the problem is that other people are not buying into the vision. Your own team will not buy into the vision. It's a simple leadership lesson, but I learned it the hard way, so I'm sharing it with you all in a full vulnerability. I made my mistakes and I made peace with my mistakes. And the one thing that I've learned through really hard knocks is, if you're talking to customers, it's a high, getting a lot of visibility. Make sure that you take your team along with you. The other thing, the last one, is really empower. Now, sharing insights with your team is one thing, but if you don't empower your team to go do what you're doing, if you don't empower your team to go continue the good work, then you will fail. So while the first 2 points that I made was about empathy and learning, that's for you. When I talk about empowerment and enablement, it's really about how you can take a team along with you. So now, how does that fit back into this framework? So, when it comes to my potential promoters, I always focus on growing goodwill. Now you might say, hey, well, we have salespeople, we have marketing people, we can reach out. But here's where you need to remember, you as a CEO of the product can probably drive a lot more change than what an average sales or marketing person can do. Because remember, they are looking at scale. They're looking at conversion. They're looking at converting leads into paying customers. You are not looking at converting a lead into a paying customer. You are looking at growing goodwill within your potential promoters group. Because here's what happens. If you just focus on 5 customers in a month and try to get them to drink your Kool-Aid and become potential promoters, or become real promoters, they will probably provide more value than all those 100 leads that a salesperson converted, right? Because when somebody promotes you, you grow, right? I mean, your brand grows, you probably grow more revenue, but I don't want to get into that at this point, because although as a CEO, you are responsible for top line and bottom line growth. If you notice, a lot of CEOs actually do this. They're brand ambassadors for their companies. They talk to a small group of customers, they get some good stories out of it, and then their media machines then churn, create more business for them using those stories. But as PMs, try to grow goodwill within your customers. The second one is, if they are potential detractors, make it a point to go talk to them, no matter how many they are. In fact, yesterday I sent out a report to about 20 different customers saying, hey guys, I know you turn on the product, I know you're not getting value because there are some limitations, and here's what you can do. At least 90% of them got back to me thanking me, because guess what? No one usually proactively reaches out to a customer with bad news, right? In this case, they were like, thanks for telling me, right? At least now I know that I need to wait another month for this new patch to arrive, but at least I'll wait patiently, rather than creating a support ticket and getting everyone upset about it. There are 10% who got back to me, very unhappy, and I will deal with that later tonight. But the thing is that that's what you need to do as a PM. This one is easy actually. So while the salespeople will always look at conversion, as a PM you can actually go after target a few use cases that are easy to convert, get some easy wins. And last but not the least is, if you have customers who are deriving value but unaware, right? These are the customers who've turned it on. Somebody left the organization, they don't know what to do. Ensure active adoption, because sometimes I think that these customers are equally detrimental to your brand, because if they're not getting value out of it, think about what happens at a golf course, right? People talking, they're going to say, yeah, really, yeah, I have the product, doesn't work, I don't know what it does. That kind of word of mouth, feedback is not good for your product, so just go and try and activate adoption. So how to measure? I know we have, 2 minutes left? Oh, we have about 5. So this is where, we will get into technology a little bit, but it's only 2 slides. It's not, the goal of today's presentation is just to kind of, seed some ideas and keep the conversation going, so that way, next month when I'm here, some of you decide to come back, because I really like the next talk as well. We can talk about adoption, right, and we can keep our conversation going. So, how to measure? I like this book. It's pretty straightforward. Like I said, all of these books that I'm recommending are small books, right? Packed with information. So go buy them. So when it comes to measuring, I purposely kept some of the tech out of it. I love to geek out with numbers. I love to geek out with data. So there's some of me coming out here. There are 3 parts to product adoption. Most of you here are doing software, right? So the first thing is make sure that you guys are instrumenting your products to tell you whether your end users are getting value out of it, right? It's very easy to, hook it up to Google Analytics and, get some vanity metrics. But even if you're using Google Analytics, remember that you can actually do, custom events, get those custom events into Google Analytics and measure them. So for example, if all that your product does is enabling, like Amazon, enabling a seller to sell something to somebody, what you probably should really be measuring is not how many sellers you have, but how much time it takes to make a sale, right? What kind of inventory turnover that particular seller has, what kind of margins that seller makes. A lot of this can come through instrumentation, it can come through joining your back office data with your product data. These are things that you should be doing and thinking about. So start with instrumentation, but keep your instrumentation focused on measuring value delivered to customer and not vanity metrics. So that's what your instrumentation should focus on. The second part is analysis. believe me, even basic understanding of statistics can go a long way. So that way, focus on rates, focus on means, rather than simply looking at aggregate numbers. I know people are always going to scare you about PII and all of that stuff, but here's the thing. We call Google Analytics directional insights, right? Because it's all anonymized, so you get to see the direction in which people are moving without really getting into who that person is, right? So directional insights can be very powerful. So when you do your analysis, just apply some basic statistics, and the book that I recommended talks a lot about it. And then last but not the least is visualization. There are lots of good tools out there. It's very easy to visualize. Even Excel can do a really amazing job. So if you can spend a little bit of time this weekend just doing a little course on basic statistics, a little course on basic visualization, that'll go a long way in helping you be independent as decision makers. So, here are a few technologies that I use at work. We don't use Google Analytics that much because of CCPA that California has announced. Is the California Consumer Protection Act that is as powerful as GDPR or even worse. So we don't do Google Analytics too much, so we are shutting down a lot of our Google Analytics feeds. We do use Pendo a little bit to measure how people are using the UI, but for us it's really measuring whether they're getting value out of our products. I do have people who specialize in data science, so if you really want to geek out on data, pull your data through Splunk, look at it in Power BI or Tableau, you should be good to go. That'll really keep you awake and keep your energy flowing for months. I love working on that stuff. But I don't know anything about Splunk, don't quote me on that. I do like using Power BI, it's really powerful. So, before this guy throws me out, Q&A.
Maybe just before we do the Q&A,
All right.
just get a couple slides out.
Sure,
so
sure.
You guys
Okay.
can get all
Okay.
your questions out.
Just really quick, just the mic comment back on us. Next month we're gonna have Damiana Javier from Chewy. She's an expert also on product management, led a lot of teams inside Chewy. Also, she's been there for many years. So I'll put it in the meetup. Meetup is not the best tool to communicate with the group, I noticed. But he gives his talk for 2 hours, I see. Right? And he did what, like 35 minutes that we reacting to do this. So we'll get Matthew's link for his next webinar at Citrix, so you guys can also join and see a lot of things that he didn't go in depth tonight. So that's that. Come see Damiana next month. It's gonna be here also at CAC. I'm also looking to, he has another. We're gonna have Matthew maybe talking for Lauderdale or in Palm Beach.
I don't mind. I love it.
For other groups, guys like don't come to mind too often. This is me not selling. Learning the empathize part. This is the meetup. If you're not in the meetup, this is the best way to find us. There are other meetups on product management too that I'll post in there as well. Product School does provide a lot of webinars on product management. You can actually go on your free time and learn from PMs from all over the world and pretty much large companies also. So I'll post those also on the meetup for you guys to see some of the companies you guys are represented. This is more information on the school and what they're teaching right now. So with that,
Q&A?
yes.
Do you folks have questions? Okay. So there are questions.
So again, with the basic model you're doing for